Again, I know people don't want to hear that. I don't blame them, but I do still think there is one more leg lower to flush out a lot of people that think the low.
Hello and welcome to another video. Once again, we have Gareth Soloway with us, and you know what that means. Time to listen to the pro and make some money. As always, he makes technical predictions that seem very likely to come true given Gareth's track record. So make sure to watch the complete video to not miss out on any important details.
Number one, looking at the Bitcoin chart, to me, this is where a technical bounce should have occurred. A lot of people were surprised when Bitcoin went below the 19.5-ish 2017 high. But if you understand how markets work, they tend to just go a little bit beyond key levels because there's a lot of stops put there. They need to run those stops. They have to get the maximum people bearish before the bounce can occur. So we saw, for instance, some bankruptcies, Celsius, Voyager, and some other situations as well that were really adding to that bearish sentiment. And that kind of led right into this bounce in the near term. And I still think the market has more upside in Bitcoin. So for me, the first target I have on the upside in the near term is that this pivot low, which was the Terra Luna low, that's probably a near-term resistance level, right? We got close. We got within about, a little over $1,000 away from that. But I still think that will get hit after such a dramatic move up in Bitcoin, where you went almost straight from 19,000 to 24. It makes a lot of technical sense why price needs to pause, have a little bit of a pullback. We heard from Elon Musk yesterday with Tesla that Tesla sold 75% of its Bitcoin. Again, I don't think that was anything other than Elon Musk trying to just pare back some risk, but a lot of people, that'll be used as a reason to sell their Bitcoin as well, since he has so many followers. So again, very just normal kind of pullback here. I do think there's another move up. If we take out this 25.5-ish area, then I think your next stop is all the lows from this area. This is going to be an epically big resistance.
As Gareth predicted, we are seeing a bounce from the recent lows. We haven't quite seen the 25 to 28K target yet, but it seems pretty likely at this point. With recent negative events like Celsius going bankrupt and Tesla selling 75% of their Bitcoin holdings, there was too much fear in the market, and a bounce like this was desperately needed.
You can see here is if you connect the high from 2021, November, and the high here, that trend line is getting very close to this area here. So my thought process is that I'm pretty certain, I would say 70-80% sure that we'll see the 25.5. I think there's probably a 60 to 70% chance we'll get up to 28 and change here. But this is kind of my zone of where I think Bitcoin stalls out before the next leg lower. And again, I know people don't want to hear that. I don't blame them, but I do still think there is one more leg lower to flush out a lot of people that think the lows are in here. And again, the thinking isn't just pure. It's not just pure, me guessing at it. The thought process here, for me at least, is that the measured move has not been completed, right? So if we take this high to this low, and then you see how the beautiful kind of channel, we had this beautiful parallel channel created. And then if you take that distance and you replicate it here from this high, it actually takes us down to about 12 to 13,000. 12 to 13,000 also happens to be this pivot over here, right in this zone, as well as this area right down here as well. So right kind of in this groove.
However, things are still looking bearish in the long term, as there is a lot of resistance around the 27 to 29K region, and there is a high possibility that Bitcoin gets rejected from there. Gareth still believes we are going to see another impulsive move to the downside, hitting the 10 to 12K mark. According to him, it should be the bottom, and we might see a major reversal from that point.
And I still think there's far too many cryptocurrencies for a healthy market. So I'm a huge long-term bull on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I think it's the wave of the future, just like the internet was. But we haven't fully seen the internet collapse that we saw in 2000 replicated in crypto just yet. So again, those are some of the little key pivot points that I'm looking at. So for me, I'm looking at more of a 12, 13,000 ultimate bottom on Bitcoin. I also think that if you compare Bitcoin and say, okay, Bitcoin is the Amazon.com of its era, right? So, monster company now, but in 2000, it was a smallish company, not the size of Bitcoin, obviously, but it was kind of that leader. And we saw Amazon collapse actually 95% from its highs in the dot-com collapse, and Bitcoin hasn't even done 80% to 85, which is its normal cycle correction.
A lot of people see Amazon as a cent-a-billion-dollar company, but not many know that it lost 95% of its value in the dot-com crash. Now, if we look at past data for Bitcoin, we will see the average correction is around 80 to 85% per cycle before another bull rally starts. We are very close to those numbers, which is why the bottom could be very close. Before we move on to the next part, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We upload videos like this daily, so you don't miss out on any of the latest market events. Let's continue.
We got down, so I've always said since we were at 69, 68,000 is that there would be a time where I start accumulating a hodl position, right? And so what I did was, and this goes to your point too, is like, I don't know where the low is going to be. Maybe it is the low. It's very, very possible that the low is already in. And so what I did was, when we got to 19,000, I started what I would consider to be a 1/6 position of what I want to accumulate of my hodl position. So again, if you think about it, let's say $120,000 is what I want to hodl on Bitcoin. I put in 20,000 at 19,000, and I'm just going to leave that there. Because if this is the bottom and we go to 100 to 500, I do want to have exposure. And I think we're low enough when we got below 20 where it's smart to, even if it goes to 12, if you're in at like 19, 18, 20, it's not that big of a deal versus if you're in at 65,000. Then it's like major pain, especially if you're in that dollar cost averaging mode, like what I'm looking to do. So I think that's important. And I would say that that's kind of the attitude I would tell people that are kind of mid to long term to have, is that in the scheme of things, you're going to look back on this and say, oh, what did it matter if I bought at 20 or 18 or 16 or even 12? At this stage, when it's 500,000, you're just like, this is awesome.
Even though Gareth is a trader, he reveals that he has started to build a long-term hodl position and advises others to do the same too. No one knows exactly where the bottom is, so it's best to buy in portions as the price falls gradually, because at some point the price action will reverse. You might want to have some exposure to it before it's too late. The next clip will clear things up.
And I'd also like to just point out is if you go to this Amazon chart here, and let me get rid of some of these short-term lines because I want to show you guys that longer-term chart. But if we go to let's go to the monthly chart. So if we go to the monthly chart, and you just look at where Amazon was in the dot-com era, right? So this is the M top that Bitcoin kind of has. So even if Bitcoin does correct down 80, 85, 90%, look at where Amazon went afterwards, right? So here it is down here, dot-coms down at 13 cents. This is obviously post-split. And then look at where it goes to. It goes to like $190. Think about the X times of this. And then again, did it matter when Amazon was at 13 cents? What if you bought it at 20 cents? What if you bought it at 25 cents? Doesn't at this stage, it doesn't matter. So I think that's the mid to long term outlook, is you have to say, listen, timing bottoms is unbelievably hard. I'm going to space my buys out and at least get some skin in the game.
As you saw, if Bitcoin is going to pull off something like Amazon, there is a lot of room for growth. If you start dollar cost averaging, trying to find the exact bottom will become irrelevant because you would be up significantly.
Right, is going against the herd is almost always the correct decision when you get to those extremes. And we certainly saw those extremes when we were below 19.5 and below that 2017 high. So I think in the very least that's exactly what I was looking at when I went long Bitcoin as a swing trade as well as the hodl position, to get a little bit of exposure there. But the question I would have is okay, so as we bounce up, so as soon as we've now bounced up to 22, 23, I think yesterday we hit 24, how quickly does the herd become too bullish again? And that would be one of the things that I would watch, and I'm sure something you're watching, is to see, okay, does everyone then all of a sudden really quickly jump on the bandwagon? For it to be a true bottom, you want to see people be really, really nervous. Even when it bounces, back to X amount, people are still like, I don't know if I trust it, I'm still bearish. And so that's one of the things I'm really focused on here is how quickly are people saying, okay, the bottom is in, versus still being skeptical. And I think yesterday when we were at 24, we started to see some of that, but now that it's pulled back, it's kind of lessened a little bit. But it's certainly, again, gauging that emotion of the crowd, of the masses, is the most important thing a trader can do, aside from learning the technicals of the chart.
Gareth says going against the herd is one of the most accurate bets one can make in this market, and fairly so, because this is why 95% lose money and 5% don't. Usually, when a lot of people have reached a consensus, the opposite happens. The herd serves as liquidity for intelligent investors. Do you think we're going to see a $10,000 to $12,000 Bitcoin anytime soon, like Gareth says? Are you dollar cost averaging for maximum returns? Let us know in the comments. As the saying goes, sharing is caring. So don't forget to share this video with your friends so they can learn about Gareth's predictions too. See you guys in the next one.